Hello, hello, everybody. How are you? Welcome back to Last Week Today Live. And let's see, today's going to be a bit of a different type of agenda. My wife's not over here yet. I'm going to bring in a special guest moderator. I don't know how to work this out because I didn't quite prepare this week. I'm not going to lie to you. So why don't I do this? I'm going to bring in, well, let me see who's hanging out here first. Let's see. Wellbore, first in, how are you? Mr. Neil Collects, how are you? Evil, how are you? By the way, I don't know if you've guessed this, but my son is up. And of course, he decides that this is going to be the hour he's talkative. Evil, I hope your brother's doing better. Melodope, how are you, sir? How are you? Trev. Paul, congrats on your win. David, how are you? I hope your wife's doing good. And the kids, of course. Manny, the Hobgoblin, how are you? Okay. So let me do this. I'm going to go ahead and bring in our special guest moderator, and that'll give my wife time to walk over. And I just realized that I only have one set of headphones, so I don't know how she's going to hear. Honey, you're going to have to sit like really close to me. I'm going to give you one of the headsets. I don't know how it's going to work. Yeah, because I don't think the audio is going to come through without it. I'm going to probably just have to tell you. So let me go ahead. I'm going to bring in our guest moderator, Mr. Brian LCS.
Good morning again.
Hey, Brian. How are you? Good morning.
Doing well.
Thank you for agreeing to jump in when I'm like, hey, jump in. And kind of didn't do anything else after that.
Yeah, we'll figure it out as we go, I guess.
Yeah, it's been just a very crazy week. It's just kind of like, yeah, I said I was going to do that, and here we are.
Yeah, I know. This week kind of snuck up on me too. It just seemed to be extra busy for no reason.
I'm going to try to take my headset out just to see if my wife can hear us talking.
Okay.
Because she doesn't want to move closer because I smell. Hold on. Okay. Brian, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Honey, can you hear Brian?
I can hear.
Okay, good.
All right, good. That works.
And just a warning to everybody, you will hear 14-month-old screech and scream, no doubt. So just be prepared because he has like 1 hour a day where he decides to be vocal, and today he chose while we're streaming. So that's how it works.
Well, good morning good morning to the entire Philtastic family.
Thank you. We've just seen that guy. Do we need to watch him again? Yes, Neil. It's required watching. Right, buddy? I should say, by the way, too, Brian saves us Saturday mornings. So the little guy wakes up just as Brian is going on. And you need something to distract him while you're getting the food ready. And I'll set up the phone, either if I'm feeding him or my wife's feeding him and I have to distract him. And he just sits there. He's like this. And really, like, he watches a bunch of YouTube. So if I follow you and I watch you, my little guy's watching you too. And I think it's just because you see people like this, he thinks that they're talking to him. So he gets a kick out of that. So today I wanted to do something a little bit different. Rather than go through a regular agenda, I figured, yes, babysitter Brian. I figured we would treat this kind of like as a recap or a lack of a better word, like a tell-all of Love and Comics Season 1, which I've dubbed it. And we just pulled tell-all because one of my wife's favorite shows is 90 Day Fiancé.
It was both of our shows.
Well, primarily.
Just mine.
Okay, so one show we watch together, 90 Day Fiancé. They end every season with a tell-all, which is sometimes very long and drawn out into multiple episodes. So I figured, let's just do that because that's the only reference we have.
You know, the thing I think about that series, your series, Love and Comics, I don't think people realize, because I had asked the question, I think, on one of the maybe the second to last video. You have what? You said 19,000 comics?
No. I don't think it's 19. She thinks it's more.
You said 16,000.
It's a little up in the air. I'll tell you
Okay.
why. The CLZ app, great app, not sponsored. As I'm going along, I'm realizing I have things that, for whatever reason, are not in my app. I thought I had scanned everything in, and I was wrong, apparently. I had been using a different app that I can't even think of the name for years, and I kind of got pissed off at them because when I got a new iPad, nothing transferred over.
Oh, jeez.
Contacted them, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you have to buy like another license," and I was like, "No, I don't. See you later." So I just had to kind of go back and put everything in. But right now, the current count is a little bit above 17.
But still, 17,000 comics is, I mean, when you guys first started that series, I didn't have the sense of how many comic books there were. And so I wasn't sure, are we talking about, 5 or 6 long boxes, or, 7 or 16, say 15,000 comics, right? That's,
Yeah.
that's every 1,000 roughly a long, 3 long boxes. So you're at 45 long boxes full of books.
Yes,
Probably.
Yes.
So that's a big amount of books and space.
I don't know if you hear her. She's agreeing. But yeah, well, I mean, look at this too. I've been collecting on and off since I'm about 13, 14 years old. Some of the, sometimes I collected more issues than I did. And I could tell you, when I was single, many years before meeting my wife, forget it. I mean, that was all of when Avengers blew up from 1 books to like 12 overnight.
Right.
I was those, doing just some heavy dipping into DC, especially when I came back into the hobby, just because I was like, I like these books. I know what I'm reading, but I want to expand more. So there's just like a little bit of everything. Now, I'm happy to report, and I think my wife could back me up on this, though she probably won't, that I have slowed down significantly. And I continue to kind of cut back too. But she made a
Yeah, to a certain degree you did. But you still have a lot.
yeah, but
you still get a lot, I should say.
See, that's where I disagree. Neil actually just asked you a question, honey. Do you collect anything?
I used to collect keychains, but not anymore.
Yeah, but see, that's kind of it too. That my wife is very organized and neat, and I'm not. But she used to collect keychains, and then she just kind of got to a point. She's like, I have too many keychains.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I should say too, because I know David's jumping in. He says 1,700. That's like a shop, and I was like, and part of this whole process too. And if you saw my video yesterday about savoring your collection, that's kind of like what I'm in the process of now. Is just saying, okay, that's going to be kind of like the third phase of this whole organization project. Is saying, okay, these books don't really matter to me. I could part with these. And that gets to be the kind of like the difficult stuff,
Yeah, well, that was what I was going to ask you next. Now that you've organized or almost got them all organized, are there books that you can, think, all right, now I can start to get rid of some of these. They're not that important, or because I've done that where, maybe I've started to pick up a series and read it, and then got 10, 15 issues in and realized this I don't really like, or even less than that I don't want to continue with this series, and then I may just remove them from the collection, sell them, or give them away, or do something with them. So
yeah, I'm definitely in that mindset, and we're still a little further away from that, only because like this next phase is going to be, see, now they're all from the office more or less into our storage area. Now it's just still kind of cleaning them up within that storage area. But I am starting to like think about more like, okay, I have easily 20 years worth of Batman comics. I collected Batman from the time I jumped back in up until at the end of Tinian's run. And now I think, because I am a father, I start to think of stuff more along the lines of what is my son or my kids, what are they going to appreciate when they're older, if anything. So it's kind of like I'm in the mindset where it's almost their collection, and I'm just kind of curating it for now. But like I was like, you know what? Do I need 20 years worth of Batman books? That's about 2 or 3 long boxes, probably more at this point. You know, maybe I can get rid of those. You know, a lot of those things are starting to heat up a little bit. That's kind of like the challenge. But the only things I know I definitely want to hang on to. I've been working on a run of Uncanny Volume 1. I'm
Okay.
pretty close to there. My Wolverines I want to hold on to. You know, the main X-Men titles, not so much the offshoots. Yeah, buddy.
I feel
And yeah, other than that, like I've always just had an affinity for What If and for Marvel Comics Presents. So maybe those. And then like Ninja Turtles, when I collected when I was younger, I was thinking about it. But that's when you got to get into like, okay, well, if you don't get rid of them now, when do you get rid of them?
Right. Right. Now, what about? I think in that series, did you guys mention that you might be in the future looking to move, or that this isn't your kind of your forever house, right?
Yeah, this is definitely not a forever house. I mean, I'll give you a little bit of background. Oh, honey, I've been doing a lot of talking. Do you want to give them background on that?
I mean, I don't know what you're thinking. My background is different than yours, I guess.
Well,
Go ahead.
share your perspective. Come on, the people want
Go
to hear.
ahead. I mean, I know what I wouldn't do again when we're buying a new house.
Well, no, just yeah. Basically, where we live, not far from the Brattons, actually, is it was a lake house at one point, and then just people's. I don't know if it's all around, but here in New Jersey, at some point, people made their vacation homes, their permanent homes, which has its drawbacks. Because when we moved in, the house was bank owned. You know, we needed to have some work done more than we initially thought. Yeah. And I mean, look, this is a starter home. You know, we're under 1,000 or under 900 square feet.
Under.
No, which one? I'm saying.
We're at 8.
Yeah, we're a little under 900 square feet.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a tiny house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and 2 adults and 1 baby who has enough for 5.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
All the baby gear too, right? Yeah.
Yeah. They're little, but they come with a lot of stuff. That's what we're learning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we know that we're not going to retire here, but at the same point, it's kind of like we're kind of in your area more or less. Right now, yes, you can probably sell for an inflated amount, but the downside is you're going to buy for an inflated amount.
Right.
So we're kind of waiting for things to improve, and yeah, and, income is another big thing too. Right now my wife takes care of our son, so we're a 1-income household, and here in North Jersey that could be a bit challenging.
Oh sure. Yeah. The Northeast. Yeah, that could be challenging. Yeah.
Mhm.
And Long Island is like that a lot too. Initially Long Island was basically all summer homes, right? It was people lived in New York City, and Long Island was a place that they went out to summer. So there are, I mean, not this is a long time ago, but a lot of the homes were summer, bungalows that were now converted. But
Mhm.
there's also a lot of big developments like Levittown where they built, developments, a lot bigger houses. But there were a number of houses that were initially built as, so-called summer homes that were very small compared to, the homes that are built today. So
Yeah, our house is small and on the side of. I don't want to say it's a mountain, but it's on the side of a tall, rocky hill. We say that.
okay.
Now it's not ideal, as far as like a backyard or whatnot, and it's not something that we want to pour money into to expand or anything like that. We've kind of put in at this point, knock on wood, what we want to put in.
Gotcha.
We don't want to go underwater, basically. Yes, Matt Woods, Phil needs goats. I've been asking Matt if he could bring goats here because I have a backyard with a lot of weeds and thistles that I pull every year, and I just want the goats there to destroy them, eat them up, so I don't have to worry about them.
Right. Cutting it down or mowing it or yeah.
Yeah, but what my wife has promised me when we do have our next house, which we're meaning to be the it house, the forever home, so to speak. I don't know if there is such thing anymore, but
Yeah, it's true.
the we could have a little comic room and maybe something that's kind of like Matt Woods' setup. Um, just because I think that'll make storage a hell of a lot easier and nicer looking too.
Well, and the reason why I asked that about the house was because now have you considered that amount of comics and moving them, right? If you have to move 40, 40 long box, however, we're about 40, 45 long boxes roughly,
Mm-hmm.
moving those to a new location. Have you considered that? Maybe that could be a motivator to trim it down.
Yeah, and we've had to move them twice already. The idea was never to have them in this house initially. I initially had them at my mom's house, and my mom got to a point where she was like, I'm going to want to sell my house at one point. Still waiting for her to do that. But your comics are going to have to go. So it's like, all right, fine. So I had rented out a storage unit, not far from us. Had a very good friend of mine come and help out, and over the course of about, say, maybe 2 or 3 days, we moved all of the boxes to a storage unit, and that was fine for a while. But the price of the storage unit, it was like a month-to-month thing,
Right.
and nearly tripled in less than a year.
But you also had a big storage.
Yeah, I did. I got one of the biggest ones that you can get because I knew it was going to be significant. Well, they wanted the space. End of story. So they kind of priced me out.
Doesn't it go by the size of the storage
unit? It goes by the size, but the point is that I signed up for one price.
No, I understand that.
Right, and then it just got to the point where it was like, this is just.
But that was way too big than what you needed, I think. There was a lot of space there.
But the next size, I had a 10 by 10 unit.
Okay.
The next size that they offered, which I don't remember, would have been just too claustrophobic.
Too small, yeah.
Yeah. So we got to the point I was like, I can't afford to do it, and moved everything over here. My dad and my brothers and sisters, after some coaxing, helped over, and there we go. Yeah, Matt actually has an idea that I wanted to do. I'm thinking of making a second comic book room. We have a secret room in the house that no one is in there. I wanted to make a secret room in this house for years, and I just kind of gave up.
That's not going to work for this house.
But I get voted out.
Yeah, no, because we're planning on moving later this year, so that's a consideration. I mean, I only have my collection's about 2,000 comics, so it's relatively small compared to others.
Yeah.
So, but it's still consideration of how are we going to move it, because we're moving. Our plan is to move out of state, and so and we still haven't decided on how we're actually going to move. Whether we're going to do it ourselves or we're going to hire somebody. We don't have a lot of stuff to take, but it's just personal belongings. Can fill up a trailer. So
where are you looking?
We have to figure that out. How are we actually going to move? And then how do I move the comics? Do I just put them in my car and drive them, or there's consideration on so that they don't get thrown around and damaged, those type of things.
Where are you looking to move to?
We're heading south. We're going. We're moving to South Carolina.
Oh yeah, we've had one of my favorite cousin moved down there. None of them watch, so this works out. Yeah, that seems to be the trend. It used to be people moving to Florida, and I think I could tell you insurance-wise, Florida's gotten crazy, but I'm seeing more and more people go to South Carolina now.
We have family there, so that's the reason why we're looking to. We are at my sister-in-law, my wife's sister, and her family are there, and my in-laws moved from California to South Carolina about 2 years ago. So that's why we picked that spot.
Oh, good. Yeah, I mean, with our thought, at least right now, is if we were to move, we would still try to move within the same town. We have a great town, I have to say, a nice kind of vibrant downtown area, lots of little restaurants and stuff that we order from, but don't really go to anymore. But yeah, I mean, my thought was I would, if I had to move tomorrow, I would probably have to just
We have a
enlist
lot.
some, what?
We have a lot of them.
Yeah, I would probably just enlist some help and just go make trip after trip, or see what the rate of asking a mover, like, hey, how much to move all these boxes?
Yeah, no, it would have to be a mover.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, I think staying in the same town, right? Because now, as
Yeah.
your son gets older, school and those type of things will, take hold, right? You want to be in a good school district. You want to have a good, activities for the kids, those type of things. So
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't mind moving to a more affordable state, a more tax-friendly state. Why don't we say? I don't know. I know that there's people from all around the country here, and I think New York works the same way as New Jersey. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but our property taxes are one of the highest in the country because you're also paying for school taxes along with
sure.
everything else that everybody does. So I don't know if everybody's aware of that. I figured let them know. But I wouldn't mind moving out of state, but all of our families up here pretty much.
Also, your standard of living is higher here.
Yeah, and that's something that we want to consider too. Is like I've known people in my company who moved to another state, and the companies turned around and said, "Well, now that you move in another state, we need to adjust your wage to match the same income level."
That's
which
what people don't understand, though.
I just think it's just another way to screw you.
But it balances out in the end.
No, because for a while there were people who were moving. Like I have a friend of mine moved to Virginia, and they didn't. They didn't figure out. Hey, we're actually paying him more now because the standard of living is higher. Cost of living is lower rather.
Mm-hmm.
But they figured that out.
But still, the work that he's doing is the same, so it shouldn't.
I mean,
Different state.
yeah, no comment on corporate life.
Yeah, that could be a whole nother show, right?
Yeah. I also stream to my LinkedIn as well, so I don't know if anybody sees that and is like, well, about corporate stuff here.
But
But
yeah, no, I mean taxes here are similar to New Jersey. Just what we'll eventually be paying in South Carolina is probably a fifth or a sixth of what we're paying. What we're paying here.
Yeah.
It's crazy the amount of the cost of taxes here.
Yeah, and there's other things too that I think other people don't realize. Like I know that South Carolina, for example, if my cousin wants to put up a shed on her property, she just gets the stuff, builds it up, and she's fine. Here, you have to get permits and you have to mail.
You have to let your neighbors know.
Yeah, mail a warning to all your neighbors. This is what I want. If they don't like it for some reason, they could go to the town and say, "I don't want this to happen." It's we've
you wait for days, weeks, months.
We've perfected the red tape.
Yes, this is true.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see. I'm seeing what everybody says here. Yeah, Matt Woods has pretty much nailed it.
Yes.
I remember in the early 2000s when we had John Corzine as our governor, and walked in to the LCS one day and was like, "Oh yeah, by the way, now you pay tax on your comics." It's like, okay.
I can understand that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, fanboy, what's it? Time to ditch that prison? We're not in prison. You mean New Jersey or the house? But our house.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, just to summarize, yeah, we need to move to a bigger space at some point, and
we're running out of space already.
Well, what I was going to say is that that point's coming relatively
it's
quickly.
Already here.
Yeah.
If you haven't noticed.
Gotten creative, we'll say this.
But the new space, the comic room, or a space for Phil is already, that will be in the works, right, or in the plans of the new house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Everybody witness.
Well, because if you look,
It's recorded.
there's no walking through that right now. No, there isn't. No, there isn't. You got stacks and stacks of boxes everywhere. It's like a little
Oh,
cubicle.
you're talking. Yeah. Well, again, I'm organizing it. It takes time. So my wife is very diligent. Where if she starts a project, she's going to try to finish it all in the same day or the same weekend.
Yes, or
at
else
the
you
most.
you procrastinate. You
But
don't ever
something,
finish it.
what I keep saying is something like this. There's just no way.
To be
Like-
honest with you, if it wasn't for our son's birthday,
Mm.
would you have the incentive to organize that
Yes.
quick? No. I have been nagging you for how long?
We started the organization project.
We had
Before
how
his
many
party.
conflicts? How many arguments?
Ah.
Mhm.
Well, Evil's selling us a house. Hold on. Back home in Texas, a 1-bedroom was 600, 2 bedrooms was 800. Yeah. I don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, to give you perspective, right, Mike, on Long Island, you can rent a studio basement apartment for 12 to 1400.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's crazy here. What you pay in rent for a studio, like I said, basement apartment, you can probably buy a house somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's
Did you
crazy.
down from us? Rent for 3,500?
No.
Right down the street here. The blue
Oh.
house, remember? In the corner. Where you make that turn, that awful turn.
Oh. Yeah.
And then there's
Wait.
that
You're talking
bottom-
about that little one
the
that they were.
stone bottom, and then it's a
There's a
siding.
there's a house that we're always checking Zillow, whatever, just to see. There's a house not far from us where you could literally, I think, fit the house in our living room.
Yeah.
Like it's very small, and they were trying to sell it for like
Now they're renting it.
$450.
Yeah.
Now they're trying to rent it for $3,000 a month.
35.
35. Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
And at that point, it's like you might as well just buy.
Yeah.
Even our neighbor, we have a shared driveway,
Ugh.
and our former neighbor was trying to sell. He wound up renting out his house, and this house is actually a little bit smaller than ours,
A lot smaller.
but it's a different kind of layout. And he's kind of on top of the hill, whereas we're in the middle of it. And he wound up renting it out for more than our mortgages every month. And it's just, look, this is what the market allows in our
Right.
area.
Yeah, no, it's one of the things I've tried to talk to my children about. My daughter lives in Orlando, and she shares an apartment. She rents an apartment, like a 3-bedroom apartment, with 2 other roommates,
Mhm.
and her rent is probably like $800 a month. But it's in an apartment complex with a pool, a couple pools, and all the maintenance is taken care of. So the 3-bedroom is 2,400, but she splits it, 2 other ways. So it's really, it's
Yeah.
not that. It's it's doable. 2,400 obviously by herself she couldn't afford, but 800 is acceptable. But the two of my sons live home with us, and I've explained to them, like, you'd have a much better quality of life depending on what you how you're going to work, or
Mhm.
where you're going to work, and how much you're going to make, but in a different state. And it doesn't have to be South Carolina. It could be somewhere else in the United States where taxes aren't as high, and cost of living, food, and utilities, things like that, aren't as expensive. So
Yeah. That's utilities are a whole nother.
yes.
Yeah. I know that in New Jersey, of course, at the height of the pandemic, the electric and the gas companies, or was it the electric? No, the electric company got a rate increase approved. And in our county, we're like the second lowest. Ours went up about, let's say, about 12%. But where my parents are, which is just 2 towns over, got one of the highest at like 25%.
Oh wow.
And it's just, this is apparently what is allowed to
New
happen.
times.
Yeah.
And how do you heat your house? Oil?
Yes. We
Gas. Okay.
Yeah. Converted. That was a whole.
Oh yeah, that was.
Yeah, there was a whole story in that too. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, all I could say is, if you're doing something like that, maybe don't go through like Home Depot.
Okay.
That's the thing I'll tell you. But yeah, that was. Was that bigger than the waterproofing project, or which was bigger?
Waterproofing.
Waterproofing was
Yeah.
bigger. It was the second biggest project we
Ooh,
tackled
waterproofing,
here,
for
and it
sure.
was, I think, the biggest impact as far as the quality of the house went.
Yeah.
But now, how is the overall cost gas compared to oil?
Oh no, we definitely saved a bunch.
Right.
Yeah, we wanted to convert as soon as we got in here, and we started that process. I think I made the call
Within
like
a
the
year.
week we moved in.
Yeah.
But
but it didn't really go through that quick.
yeah, I mean, you have to get the gas company to call you back.
Right.
We
Then-
really struggled. Like,
Yeah, well, part of our issue is that they had just replaced the gas line on the street, so you had to get permission from the mayor's office, not even from the town, to have them dig up the street again. And it took
we had to get the tank removed.
old propane
That
tank and the
was-
old tank removed.
Yeah.
What else too? And well, getting everything
We were
installed,
waiting for
finding
permits.
the right installer. That was a huge thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge chaotic process that I
We made
pray we'll
thousands
never go
of
through
phone
again.
calls. Thousands of phone calls.
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of legwork. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
just to let you know, oil is about $5 a gallon this winter. So
And
that's one of the things that I will not miss at all is the oil bill every month in the winter.
well, even because we had propane for cooking for a while,
Mm-hmm.
we managed to get rid of the oil before we had to refill it. The bank had given it to us. It was about, I think the oil itself was about a half full, the tank.
Yeah.
And luckily we had a warmer kind of fall, because by Thanksgiving we were on gas.
Okay.
But the propane, one of the most aggravating things I didn't know is this, that they'll just come in and fill up whenever they think they
I
need
was
to.
just gonna say that. Yeah.
So we were getting a bill for like $300-400 out of the blue.
Yeah.
Like,
Constant.
hey, we filled up your propane. It's like, I didn't need it. It's like, oh yeah, but we took care of it for you.
That was annoying.
But yeah, we knew what we had to do, and here we are. And hopefully we don't have to do anything else.
Yeah. That,
So now, do you expect that the series there will be a season 2, and what can you preview what season 2 will be about?
It will absolutely be a season 2. There are some changes going on that is going to have to force me to really work more down and get everything absolutely taken care of, now that we're on to what I call is phase 2 of the organization project. And that's all I can tell you at this point as far as that goes. But there'll definitely be a season 2, and my hope is that if we go on to another season, you'll see maybe something more fun of like maybe constructing storage bins, or what would be ideal is going into the new comic room and just kind of evolve that. Yeah, you know what it is, and I think what I'm hoping, I should say, what I'm able to pull from this series, I kind of had a long kind of look at some of my content over the past couple months. And I was like, I want to offer something more than this is what I got this week. There's nothing wrong with that. YouTube is grown up show and tell. I think we're all kind of on this boat.
Right.
But I kind of like showing how comics just fit into our life, just not even as, hey, what do you think about Superman, that type of thing, but just kind of
like behind the story.
share.
so to
Well, yeah,
speak.
that, and just kind of sharing it together here too.
Yeah.
So
No, I agree. I mean, I think there's something to just having more of the conversation instead of like you said, the show and tell, because of time. Because when somebody's doing a unboxing or showing off their comics they picked up, it's a visual thing. You want to be able to see the cover. You want to look at what they've purchased, and you want to look at the artwork. But when there's just an interview or that conversation, it's something you can just listen to in the background where you don't need to be fixated on the screen. Like somebody could just be listening to this conversation, in the background as opposed to sitting and having to watch the visually what's happening. So
Mhm.
it's one of the formats that I do enjoy on YouTube. It's more of like a video podcast, if you would, but you don't need to watch the video. So
Right. This I want to get to. This is a reference you might know, Brian. I'm not sure if everybody knows. Do you remember Ron Bennington, Ron and Fez?
oh yes, yes,
Like one thing I found myself trying to emulate is when I do interviews and stuff like that. Like he always seemed to have the ability to pull the best kind of information and just make everything kind of seem interesting, even like the most kind of day-to-day things. And that's kind of what I want to shoot for when we do this. But it also gives you really kind of a slice of our life and what's going on in here. And I think that's what people appreciate.
yeah, yeah. No, I think seeing how others, right? I think it was always interesting. The series was always interesting to have your wife's perspective on it because she's not really a collector, right? She has to deal with it because you're a collector. And so, understanding that, my wife calls my collecting cute. She was, we were talking earlier and she's like, oh, you're doing your YouTube thing today. Like have fun with that.
Mhm.
She appreciates that I have a hobby that I enjoy, but she doesn't, she's been to the comic book shop with me a few times, but she really wants no involvement with it.
Mhm.
She's a good sport. She'll watch some of the movies, she'll watch some of the TV series, but as far as the physical books, she's like, she doesn't care.
Yeah, my wife, I have to say, she's very good about watching the movies with me. There's some shows that she doesn't care to watch. I'll watch that, maybe when she's not around or something. Like Sandman, for example, we watched the first half of the season together, and then she's like, I gotta cut out. She used to come to the LCS with me often, but her thing was we would go into the store. I'd be talking to Sean, the owner, and she would come back with usually 2 or 3 comics, and it was usually wasn't the Zenoscope stuff. What was it? Like she'd come back with 2 or 3 like the most scantily clad covers you could find. Like, why isn't she wearing clothes? But no, my wife's very good about that stuff. Reading, she hasn't gotten too much into just because she's just got no interest, and that's fine. But I appreciate that, there's at least an aspect of the hobby I can share with her and that she has an appreciation from a different angle.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
Mhm.
She deals with it.
Exactly.
She's just supportive of it, I should say, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's and that's fine. I think that's the minimum that you need because if and I don't pressure my wife into reading comics or if she's interested, if she has questions, I'll answer them for her. But it's not it's something we kind of keep separate. I do my stuff, and she knows I enjoy it, and she knows I block some time for it. But that's the extent of it. And so I'm glad she's supportive.
Yeah.
And if she's interested, then I'd be more than happy to share it with her. If she's not, that's okay too.
Sorry, you all right, buddy? Yeah, he just wants to make noise.
He needs his voice to be heard too.
Exactly. Yeah, and occasionally if there's something I read and it just hits me hard, or if I say my wife would really enjoy this, I'll say, honey, you have to read this. And sometimes she'll be there, sometimes she won't. As far as actually looking at it, like I know that some of the recent She-Hulk issues she read, she seemed to like, right? What else? What have I had you read that?
New age. What is it? New age. New something with the technology.
Oh, the New Think.
Yeah, New
She
Think.
read. Yeah, my wife is very not. I'm not going to say anti-technology, but
No.
she's like, you don't need. No, I'm saying you're not like that. Like she's very like, people spend too much time on their phones, for example, now. Whereas her brother is very much like,
The opposite.
we need robot everything, we need AI. So when I was reading the new thing, actually, now that you mentioned that, I didn't read the conclusion. I never got that one. The very first issue, I said, "Here, honey, you'd like this one." But I mean, other than that, the only other thing I could remember you reading that you really enjoyed when we first started going out, I lent her True Believers of Ms. Marvel issue 1 because I felt like I felt like it was a character she would relate a lot to. My wife was born in Istanbul and came over here, so there's a lot of, she's Catholic, but there's a lot of the same. I don't want to say the same values, but like the same kind of mindset.
Okay.
Not to the same degree or anything like that, but I thought it was something maybe she would appreciate, and she seemed to really like it, if I'm not mistaken. Well,
Yeah.
Hi, why don't you talk instead of me talking
No,
for you?
you're right on point. I mean, it was similar to my upbringing in several different ways, except for the cultural belief, of course.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, I really was able to relate to her character.
Yeah.
Bottom tier makes a good comment, saying he's glad his wife isn't into comics because they'd have to share money or split money for spending on picking up comics.
I did a couple of times.
But
I got you comics.
yeah, he's talking differently. He's saying if his wife was also into the hobby,
Oh, I see.
where she had her own polls. My wife occasionally will surprise me by calling my LCS, even though I told them not to take calls to do that. I'm going to pay for my husband's comics, and then I think everybody's heard the story of my Hulk 181. She surprised me with that for my 40th. So I do appreciate when she does that, but I say, look, just let me. I'll buy the comics. I don't want you to use your money on that stuff.
I jumped over hoops to find that whole.
Yeah, that was a whole journey.
Yeah.
Maybe you should tell that one day. We'll save that for an episode. But I mean, one thing too, because I mean, bottom tier brings up an interesting point too, as far as money and expenses go. I think that's a lot of it. Navigating when you have a large collection too, is that comics are not. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. Nothing is the same price as it was anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of funny. I was going back and laughing. I remember when DC launched the whole New 52, their whole big slogan was "Drawing the line at $2.99," and that lasted for what, like
yeah, that's long gone now.
Yeah, now it's like $2.99, but if you want this cover, it's $7.99.
But the other thing to consider, it's not only the cost of the books, right? It's the bags, the boards, the long boxes, all the storage, right? It's all of those other things that you spend on the hobby as well. Not just, you can spend, I probably spend an average of $25 a week picking up new books, $25, $30 a week. But then it's those times when you have to, I need more bags, I need more boards, I need all these things. And then now it's $100, or $150 because you're buying all these other things that need to come along with the hobby.
Right. And I was going to add something to that, and I lost it now. Bags and boards, trying to think. Boxes, he said. And I lost it here. But Neil actually had a good question. I was kind of on the fence of reading or not, but I'll figure we'll go for it. So Neil says, Mrs. Phil, in your opinion, do you have a set number of comics your husband should own?
Instead of the 17,000?
My guess is she's not going to say more.
No. If we can wind it down, I want down to maybe 1,000 to 2,000.
That
would be ideal.
That would be a big.
Because again, it's not fair to our kids if we're gonna have more kids to pass it on to them. What if they don't want it?
Well, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and as I said, cutting it down so it's not going to be where it is.
Right.
However, I don't like it's what I'm telling you. It's going to take time to drop 16,000 bucks.
If your father passed it on to you of 19,000 comics, I would be mad. To be honest with you, I'd be like, "What am I going to do with all this, and where are we fitting it?" I mean, honestly, put yourself in his shoes and our son's shoes. How would you feel?
Well, I mean, we'll see. Like I said, it's something that I'm working towards. It's
Okay.
not something that happens
I
overnight,
understand that, but it's something
and I don't know that
that
it'll get down to 1,000, but we'll see. Maybe they'll save that for season 3 or 4.
It's definitely something to consider, right? Because I thought about that too. Like, well, what happens to the comics, in 20, 30 years for my comics? If I were to, give them to my children, my daughter's probably more interested in comics. Because she's an avid reader. She reads a lot of books.
Mhm.
And so she's more into comics than my sons, the physical comics. They all like the movies and the TV shows. They're big Star Wars fans. But I'm almost saying, well, I probably need to curate my collection to maybe a few runs, maybe Amazing Spider-Man, having the complete run, or maybe more graded books that if if they want to sell them, that would make things easier for them to sell as opposed to just you
Mhm.
know thousands and thousands of raw books. So it's one of the things I'm thinking about as I continue to collect. Um, and I know even Anachronic Comics, Joe has talked a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Because he has, I don't know how many books he has, but my guess is he has a pretty extensive collection because he's been collecting for so long. And he's had the same thoughts of like, well, how do I streamline the PC so that when they get passed on to my son, his children, how they will handle it. So,
Yeah. It was something I thought about um, when I started getting more into YouTube, and I've asked around to a couple people, and I forgot who exactly told me that basically what they have is they've told their spouse, look, if something happens to me, God forbid, the stuff in here, anything, I think he said anything graded, you could, do a little research. These are the resources to use. Go get whatever money you want to get.
that's still a lot on me. I mean, I don't want to think
Well,
about that now, but
right,
that's
right.
still a lot on me to handle.
My whole point though is that I think a big part of it. And don't get nervous. We're not
No, I'm
talking.
not getting nervous.
No, because I see you playing with
No.
your hair. I know that Um, my I think that my job is that when we start thinking about things like estate planning, build these things in. That's why I have the CLZ app and say, look, this is the app which will give you a rough idea of the values. Or, look, if you have to go for somebody about value, go to this person, that person. My LCS owner, who I mean, God forbid, I mean, Sean drinks a whole lot. I don't know. I'm hoping he'll be up and around.
Yeah.
But just if anything, do what we can do to do what I could do, I should say, just to give her at least an understanding of, hey, look, if you just go and say, hey, I want to sell my husband's entire collection, just know that you go to LCS. Yes, they'll probably do it in one shot, but you're going to lose money on it.
right, pennies on the dollar, right?
Yeah, and look, we're gonna, that's kind of why I make it a point that, my wife watches just a few YouTube channels with me, but one of the ones that she does watch is Reggie, and he talks in those type of terms. And I show those videos to her, not so she can be like, all right, you could go sell these now, but just so she knows, hey,
Right,
these.
right. She's educated, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody had asked something I wanted to get back to. Matt, I think, said something. It might be too far gone at this point.
Watch Brian.
Yeah, you watch Brian. I know.
Watch other shows.
No, I know. I was giving that as just an example.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying that you only watch.
No, I know. You kind of made it sound that way.
No.
The old sugar, Reggie's old sugar box, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I made the joke memes before. I think it was one of the first ones I made with Reggie, where we have just one TV in the house. So if we're turning on YouTube, she'll see everything pop up. And I remember Reggie had a video up. I was trying to just scroll past quickly, and it said, how to sell your comics. And my wife said, "Look, Reggie's got a video on how to sell your comics," and I just put the meme up of Homer like hiding in the hedges. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not Mike. Neil had a question. Said of the 17,000 books, Do you actually look at all of them, pick them up, read them, or is it, or do you think it's a hoarding thing now?
They've all they've all been read and looked at. Have I given them multiple reads? No, and that's kind of the process. That's where I'm in the process of saying, okay, I don't have to go back to these books. These are the ones I could sell. And I think certainly too with the advent of digital comics and Marvel Unlimited and DC Infinity, I think that makes that step a little bit easier. So I mean, look, I'm not sitting and reading every 17, rereading, I should say, all 17,000 issues, but there are those that I go back to.
Yeah, I think the digital app is a great way to be able to catch up on books that maybe you own, that, like you said, that you've had for years, and you can go back and reread them through digitally. I mean, it's the balance, because I'm picking up new books every week. I'm typically reading those books, and so I don't have a lot of free time to go back and reread old books. So,
Hmm. And I think just too, as you get older, the time that you can dedicate to reading in general, forget about rereading, just seems to lessen, less and less. And I remember just bringing home an issue of Wolverine when I was like 10, 13, maybe reading it 3 or 4 times, which, during the 90s, if I don't know if Comics by the Bay is here, that um, Fabien Nisses, I'm probably saying his name wrong. His writing style was one where you would spend an hour reading a book. You had the time
just
to
to
go.
understand it.
Yeah, you had the time to go back and read and reread, and then I would always go back and try to like draw my favorite panels, that type of thing too. I just don't have the time or patience for at this point.
But I'm also interested, because my children, I have 3 kids. They're older. My youngest son is 20. He'll be 21 this summer.
Mhm.
But somebody like yourself, who has a young son, that when they hit like 5 years old, you're into soccer and sports and activities, band, and so many different things. And then there's a period when your kids are between like 4 and 5 and like 13, 14, where you're spending as a parent, you spend so much of your free time taking them to activities, watching them at activities, driving them to friends' houses, picking them up. Like there's such a time suck that happens with a child between that age group, and it's good things. I enjoyed seeing my kids play sports and band and whatever they were into, but it sucks up your free time, incredible amount of your free time. And
Yeah.
so I'm interested to see many of the comic book community that have kids in that age, around that age, that now will have to deal with that, and collecting and YouTube and reading and all those things. It'll
Yeah.
be
It's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, especially this, Saturday mid morning space I have. This is definitely not going to go on forever.
right, right.
Because it's at some point he's like, yeah, I want to play karate or something. Say, all right,
Right.
gotta go. But I figure, look, in the meantime, I'll just kind of enjoy that space, and then look, just as anything else goes, this channel will grow and evolve with how I grow and evolve, and how our family grows and evolves. So, you know, yeah, there might not be an early morning this week today live, but mid morning this week today live. But I like to think there'll be some sort of natural evolution of it at some point.
Now, one of the things I wanted to ask you about the series, because I noticed it in most, I think. So, how many total videos were in the series? Was there
Uh,
like 10 or 12?
12, I think.
But I think out of 11 of them, you were lying on the couch. So
Yes,
was it really just a way to get a nap in or relax?
because here's the thing. We,
We would work at midnight.
yeah. So when he's up and around, there's just not much of us getting done. We were working as a team where I would be doing more like the heavy lifting. The area that the comics are in now too is kind of a smaller space for hunging over, and especially with a bad back, you can't really do that too often. Uh, while my wife was actually sorting and bagging and boarding in many cases. So we were working mostly after he went to bed. So usually in a spurt of between. I think the shortest we did was a half hour. The longest was 2 hours.
Yeah.
So by the time he was in bed and we've eaten and everything, we're down there. We're not throwing too much extra time in there because we got to work in the
That
morning.
was like every day for 2 months.
Yeah. So, I mean, and we were going, I didn't want to be down there too late. So we had like a hard stop at what, about midnight?
Hmm.
So by the time when you see us on the couch, we're literally almost about to fall asleep.
Oh, so this is the post sorting. Now
Yeah.
let's document it, and then we're going to bed.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I noticed that. I'm like, wow, Phil's just lying around a lot during these videos.
Well, really, because more and more you think about it too, just the way our space is, unless we were filming downstairs,
We
which
did.
we did a couple
You
times.
did, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of the post a little bit more, to be honest with you. It kind of had the feeling of like when you watch like a sports game and you have the press conference afterwards, and they're just in that separate space with all the
Right.
Yeah.
Thing and
I like that idea of the separation. But other than that, too, I mean, as far as where we would shoot it, it's either going to be there, here, or in our bedroom. So I think this is the best and most natural selection for it.
I wanted
No, it makes sense.
you didn't do that.
Yeah.
Well, and too, right? When it's still fresh in your mind, the sorting and discussion that just went on. Now we'll document, the evening. That makes sense.
Yeah. But we look forward, because what's going to happen with future seasons, I don't know that we're both going to have the flexibility to work in tandem. So that'll be something maybe that'll have to change, and it'll be maybe me just coming back and reporting to my wife, like, this is what I did today. Well, we're almost at 12 o'clock. I don't want to hold us too long. I know that Gary's starting in just a few minutes with Madam, but I want to thank you, Brian, for jumping on and certainly helping out, certainly with my lack of direction, which is just kind of the way I am.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on. That was it was fun.
And I also have to, and I know I've commented on this before, but I'll say it here too. Thank you for saving me extra money by allowing me to watch your Spider-Man video. One less
You're welcome.
eat. And of course, everybody, make sure you go out and support the Comic Book Community Awards. I actually started doing a little bit of, we'll call it guerrilla marketing. I'm going to send you maybe later today. I think you get a chuckle.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Everybody's been there's been a lot of talk about it this year, and everybody, shouting it out and talking to others about it. So it's a very good positive momentum, I think, this year. So
yeah. Well, Marcus has pretty much the community figured out. He's taking care of that end.
Yes, it's true. It's true.
So what I'm doing is, as I start getting spam calls, I've been just talking to them about the Comic Book Community Award. And I'm hoping to catch one when I'm able to record it. But we haven't gotten there quite yet.
That's great. That's funny. I think I might have to start answering my my home phone again then.
Well, I think it's time for us to bow out. Again, we're going to run over and catch Gary's channel. Brian, thanks again. And thanks for everybody for showing up.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks for having me, Phil, and Mrs. Phil, and little Phil. And
Buddy, you want to say anything else? Or you're quiet now that we're going to shut down?
We got a little giggle out of him, didn't we?
Yeah, please, he was screeching. That's just what he does. But thanks again, everybody, and peace, love, and comics.